Good morning, everyone. I am Michelle Proctor-Sims, Director of the Nova Scotia Advisory Commission on AIDS. We begin this ceremony acknowledging we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the Treaties of Peace and Friendship, which Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1726. We are all treaty people. We also acknowledge that people of African descent have been in Nova Scotia for over 400 years. We honor and offer gratitude to those ancestors of African descent who came before us to this land. On behalf of the Nova Scotia Advisory Commission on AIDS, thank you for joining us to mark World AIDS Day and the beginning of Indigenous AIDS Awareness Week. Founded in 1988, World AIDS Day was the first ever International Day for Global Health. Today we join international agencies, governments, and civil society around the world in honoring all who are affected by and the millions of people, especially Nova Scotians, who have lost their lives to HIV infection with the proclamation and raising of a red ribbon flag. UNAIDS has chosen Equalize as the 2022 campaign theme. While we rightly celebrate achievements made over the past 40+ years, UNAIDS urges us all to address the inequalities and inequities that prevent us in ending the global HIV/AIDS epidemic. COVID-19 has impeded progress in reaching global HIV testing and treatment targets. Diagnoses of new HIV infections have increased in Nova Scotia this year. An estimated 10% of people living with HIV in Canada are undiagnosed, with approximately 30% lost from the overall continuum of testing and treatment. Intersecting stigmas result in discrimination and avoidance of services. This underscores the urgency to address inequities in prevention, testing, diagnosis, and care, to stop new infections and ensure everyone with HIV infection has access to treatment and support. We are grateful to have the Honourable Michelle Thompson, Minister of Health and Wellness, with us to give remarks and read the proclamation. Minister.
Thank you, Michelle. Hello, everyone. It is my honor to be here today to mark HIV/AIDS Awareness Week, World AIDS Day, and the beginning of Indigenous AIDS Awareness Week. Today we pause to remember all the Nova Scotians who have died from AIDS. We also want to take this time to think of the Nova Scotians who are currently living with HIV or AIDS. Every year, the United Nations chooses a new theme for World AIDS Day. This year is no exception. The theme this year is Equalize. Each of us are asked to look at what we can do to address the inequalities which are holding back progress in bringing an end to AIDS. We have made a lot of progress since the days when the world first learned of HIV and AIDS, but there is still much work to be done. There are still Nova Scotians who face stigma because they have an HIV diagnosis or at higher risk of acquiring AIDS. It is up to all of us to educate ourselves and those around us so stigma ends. Moreover, Nova Scotia must work to address systemic inequalities in our health and social systems that affect persons' abilities or willingness to seek such care as testing and treatment for HIV. Although there is no cure for HIV/AIDS, we have therapeutics that allow people who living with HIV to live long and healthy lives with the medications we now have at our disposal. We have all heard reports about the rise of HIV cases in the province this year. The reasons why are still to be determined, but this highlights the importance of timely access to testing and linkages to care. People who test negative can be linked to HIV prevention services such as pre-exposure prophylaxis. People who test positive can be linked to life-saving treatment. HIV treatment is also prevention. People who are on treatment and have an undetectable viral load will not transmit HIV to a sexual partner. Undetectable equals untransmissible. Therefore, early detection is vital in the fight against the disease. I encourage Nova Scotians to get tested to know your HIV status if you think you could be at risk of exposure, especially in the current context of increased HIV cases. Take precautions to protect yourself and those you love. I want to recognize Michelle and the members of the Nova Scotia Advisory Commission on AIDS for their ongoing work towards the vision of the Commission, which is the eradication of HIV. Moreover, I recognize the community-based organizations and healthcare providers in Nova Scotia working tirelessly on the front lines to provide services and support to people at higher risk and those who are living with HIV. Every day, they work to strengthen the response to HIV/AIDS in Nova Scotia at both the population and individual levels. They support people living with HIV/AIDS to achieve optimal health and well-being. The Commission continues to provide advice to government and acts as a liaison for communities on HIV prevention, testing, care, treatment, and support. In Nova Scotia, we are fortunate to have so many dedicated people and organizations who work on HIV/AIDS and related issues. I look forward to continuing to work with you to end the HIV epidemic in Nova Scotia. On this World AIDS Day and every day, I encourage Nova Scotians to honor our friends and neighbors who are living with HIV/AIDS and to remember those who we have lost to the disease. So I'll now read the proclamation. Whereas 62,790 people are estimated to be living with HIV in Canada and 10% are undiagnosed, and whereas innovations in and community-based approaches to prevention, testing, and linkages to care, treatment, and support are critical to reach those living with HIV/AIDS and those who are undiagnosed, and whereas World AIDS Day is a time to commemorate the many lives lost from HIV/AIDS-related causes and recommit to increasing access to proven tools and intervention to end the HIV epidemic. Therefore, on behalf of our Premier, Tim Houston, I hereby proclaim November 24th to December 1st, 2022 to be HIV/AIDS Awareness Week, December 1st to December 7th, 2022 to be Indigenous AIDS Awareness Week, and December 1st, 2022 to be World AIDS Day in the province of Nova Scotia.
It is now my pleasure to invite you to Province House to raise the flag. Thank you, Minister, for your words and your presence today. To the stakeholders and partners we work with every day, thank you. We invite all to mark World AIDS Day by wearing a red ribbon, educating yourself about HIV and AIDS, and attending other events either virtually or in your community. Thank you.